but they don't realize the struggle is real, y'all.
My lips no longer chapped?
Nope. I was afraid they were gonna cut me.
I'm about to kill it when I step out in that limelight. I've been on the low, cause I had to get my mind right. You don't have to know, you could go, cause I'm on site. I'ma keep it cooking with the flow, got it on tight. Gotta make it grow, get the people more, hit the finger roll, alright.
What is up, everyone? How we doing? This is Andrew and Jackie, and this is the Tuesday drop on the Remnant initiative. We'd like to welcome you to our vlog. Just want to take this time real quick to remind you to make sure you click the like button, click the subscribe button with the little bell in the air, so that way you know when we're going to post videos. I failed to post a video today, which would have been for Right Foot Monday. It's been the thing that I've been trying to do just to kind of help you get your week started off on the right foot. So I apologize for that. I was super busy at work. Jackie is actually going to do Right Foot Monday next week, so be looking forward to that. So make sure that you have that subscribe button and that bell clicked so you can be ready for all of our videos. But let's jump right in. We're actually going to talk about, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about friendships.
Friendships.
Mm-hmm.
So friendships is a topic that I think, or at least something that youth in general need to get better at. Like, you can always get better at being a good friend or having good friends, those kind of things. So we're actually going to talk about what kind of friend are you? So that's kind of the topic today. What kind of friend are you? We've got a Bible verse here real quick that we're going to share with you. It's actually found in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, and it says, "Be free from pride-filled opinions, for they will only harm your cherished unity. Don't allow self-promotion to hide in your hearts, but in authentic humility, put others first and view others as more important than yourself." So that kind of really we could probably just cut the video right here and just refer to that if you want to know what kind of friend are you. Let's refer to Philippians chapter 2 verse 3, what kind of friend are you? So Jackie, what kind of friend are you?
Well, I'm struggling with that.
Right. Right.
I can tell you right now that it's hard. It's hard not to be selfish. It's hard not to. I mean, it shouldn't be, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of things that culturally, culturally in society, self-promotion is such a huge thing.
Right.
I mean, you look at just things from social media, look at things like Instagram and TikTok and all of these social media platforms, and it's all about me. And that's unfortunately the generation, the Generation Z, they are, and this is not a knock on you guys, but this is just where you guys have been raised up in, is that it is all about me. I'm going to get mine. It's all about me type of culture. And I think that's just really, it's sad. There goes Jackie's phone.
Sorry.
Actually, one of our students are texting us. What's up, Avalon? I think it was Avalon. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, that's just kind of the culture in which, your guys' generation is growing up in. And obviously we see what the word says, Philippians 2 chapter 3, be free from pride-filled opinions. And man, that first line right there, I mean, that is what society, and not just Generation Z, but society as a whole right now, from older to younger, it is all about pride and their opinions, and it's just what I think, and this is my opinion, and man, it's hard. It's hard right now with what society has done and what they're doing to this next generation coming up behind us.
And what I think it's sad, though, is that society makes it sound like they're empowering,
mm-hmm.
but they're not empowering. They're actually creating more walls between people, and especially when it comes to like genders and stuff. And we just have to step back and just kind of reflect on how we're really treating others. And especially as Christians, like we have to make sure that we are mirroring Jesus and not, because we are called to be different, to be a peculiar people, meaning, we're supposed to stand out, but we don't want to do it in a negative way. So that's what's really hard. And I think it's gotten harder, obviously, because so many things have, obviously society just keeps evolving. And unfortunately, we as Christians are expected to evolve with them, but that's not what the Bible says, So it's really hard. Now, growing up, how, like, look back and think about how hard was it for you? Obviously, okay, with you were a pastor's kid.
Yep. Shout out to the PKs.
Your dad was a pastor.
Right.
And of course, you were expected to be perfect, basically. And it wasn't so much that it was your parents, but it was those around you, because they knew you were a pastor's kid, so you should know better,
Right.
So, like, how much harder was it once your parents stepped away because of your mom's health?
Sure.
Did that pressure continue? So basically, I'm asking you
You asked me two different questions. I mean, the pressure, just as a PK growing up, the pressure was really, really hard. And like Jackie said, it wasn't so much pressure that my parents would put on me, more as it was pressure from people who knew, oh, your dad's a pastor. And so they would instantly just, have, oh, you're a PK, so, you know all your 10 commandments, you do all your, you abide by all the 10 commandments, you love your brother as yourself, all these different, things. And so it was super, super hard as a PK, because it had this like unwritten expectation of, this is how you should act, this is how you should dress, this is how you should talk, this is what you should wear, this is, all these different things of unwritten expectations. And when you slipped even just a little bit, it was always like, oh yeah, well, the PK, I've heard those PKs, they can be rebels, and they like to push the limits, and that's just what, and so that was obviously there. And so it was tough. My parents did a pretty good job of allowing me to be me, but also they did have an expectation that, hey, you are a representation of our ministry, you are a representation more so of our family. And so there was that, kind of that expectation, but it wasn't crazy over the top by any means. Now, when they came out of the ministry, for those of you who don't know, my mom's health had declined. She had been diagnosed with cancer. And so my dad stepped away from the ministry while she was dealing with all of those health complications. And so it was a little bit different, because I wasn't in that PK role, but I had grown up in it for such a long time that at that point it was like, it was just me, at that point, like I was just being me, but it was, and I was I definitely had slip ups. I was not perfect. I did a lot of stupid things in my early teen years, but as my health had declined, I had really kind of steered myself more towards being focused on what God's plan was for me, and try to walk that line as best I could. So, but what about you? So like you grew up, obviously, small town Nebraska. Mm-hmm. You grew up in, in and around youth ministry, because you've been a part of your youth group. But what was it like for you having that, I guess, that youth ministry mindset when you were in the church? What did that look like when you went into your public school? Because that's the one thing that I think a lot of kids nowadays, especially a lot of our youth that watch this, they do this in church, but then what do they do in the four walls of their school? So how did you balance that?
Well, like all Christian kids, you grow up in a Christian home, but you don't make it your own till you have that encounter with Christ.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until, I want to say, at the end of my freshman year in high school that I really started searching for God, searching for Christ. Even though I knew he was there and I knew of him and about him because my mom was really, she was our driving force of going to church every Sunday and every Wednesday. But it wasn't until then that I started making it my own. Before that, though, I was very embarrassed, almost at a point where when kids would find out that, well, what are you doing Sunday evening? Right. And it's like, you're a Christian? Oh, yeah. You read your Bible? Yeah. And then I would have to think of ways of doing things that, but I'm not that Christian.
Right. Right.
I go to church, but I'm not that Christian.
Sure.
And thinking back on it, that's sad, but that's how it was. If I wanted to be a part of a group of certain friends, they didn't want someone who was going to preach at them and who was going to look down on them. So I always wanted to be a part of it. And the hard thing was growing up in a small town in Nebraska, being ethnic, being Mexican, it was really hard already. So that added on another big, huge stress on it.
Sure.
Not as much as you though, because I wasn't expected to, I need to know my Bible.
Right.
I need to know the 10 Commandments. I need to know, all of these things. I was expected to act a certain way, but that was because my mom was like, everybody knows you're Mexican, you belong to me, so be good.
There's no denying it.
So, stuff like that. But then once I had that encounter with Christ and I began to make my relationship very personal and it became very important to me, I just did what I read in the Bible, which was I went to school and I was myself, and I made sure to include other kids, and I made sure that they knew that I'm not perfect, that I am going to mess up. I'm going to have my good days and I'm going to have my bad days, but just to show them the love of Christ and accepting who they are and not trying to change them and allowing the Holy Spirit to work with them and not force them into something, because I had to keep in mind that I am still a kid at this point. I'm not, it shouldn't all land on my shoulders, and that's where we need to rely on God to be able to do the changing in the other person, because we can't do it for them. Right. They have to want the change of it.
Yeah.
So I just went in with the mentality that as long as I was loving and accepting, obviously I was outspoken at times, and that's something that I'm still working on, that not everybody goes for the Band-Aid effect. But sometimes you have to be that friend depending on how much you love your friend.
Yeah. Because
you can't let them do stupid things that's going to harm them, whether it's physically or mentally or emotionally.
Right.
So you're going to want to say something, but you have to find the middle ground, and I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I think it's super important especially for Christians, and especially if your friends know you're a Christian, it's super important that whether you know it or not, your friends, if they know you're a Christian, they're already looking at you different. Mm-hmm. So when they are already looking at you different, it's important to remember that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be that standard. But like Jackie said, you don't want to be the standard so much that you drive that friendship away. So I think it's important and I always tell our youth, and especially my kids, it's important for, you to ask that question, this friendship, am I being influenced by the negativity, or am I influencing the positivity? And so that's the one thing that I think is always super important, to try to have that mindset. Who's doing the influencing? Am I being a positive influence, or are they being a negative influence? And it's definitely hard. It's not easy friendship in this world, as a Christian, friendship in this world, I think is a whole different ball game.
Absolutely.
Even from when we grew up, which was not that long ago. But,
right.
you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you just have to ask yourself, what kind of friend am I being? Am I being Christ-like? Am I showing, ultimately, above all else, am I showing them the love of Jesus? That's the most important thing. Sorry, my screensaver just went on. That's the most important thing is, am I showing the love of Jesus? And at the end of the day, you don't need to be super preachy. You don't need to be that rah, Jesus, blah, blah. That's great, but you don't have to be that way. Actions speak louder than words. So if you're showing love, I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Because, I think friends in general will appreciate rawness, realness, and honesty. And if you can be that way with them while showing Jesus' love, I mean, at that point, you're just taking that seed and you're planting it. And you may not be the one to grow it. You may not be the one to water it. You may not be the one to see that seed grow and flourish and all of that stuff. But if you at least plant that seed, you allow God and the Holy Spirit to do the rest, and big things will happen. So yeah, I mean, we covered, you know, what is society saying. I think society says a lot of different things about friendships and really about, it's like I said, it's a me generation. And then, you know, we obviously covered Philippians 2, chapter 2, verse 3, obviously talks about, you know, being humble, being, you know, having humility with friendships. Don't be boastful. All of those things, all of those are great things. So yeah, friendship, it's tough. It is tough. And so, yeah.
Okay, well, what about those kids who want to know, how do I know what friendships are good for me? How do I know? Because let's flip it. We're telling them about how we should be a friend.
Right.
But then we also need to talk about, you know, how they should be treating us.
Yeah, and that's something else that's really tough too. I actually read Lecrae's book, and I don't have the title of it. I think his book is called Unashamed. But anyway, I read Lecrae's book a couple years ago, right when it first came out, and that was the one thing that he talked about, that the Christian hip-hop industry came down hard on him because he was seen at a party where there was drinking, there was obviously smoking, there was girls, skimpy girl, bathing suit, all this. It was an outdoor party. He talks about how he was at this party, and the Christian, I guess the Christians, you know, whatever, they were like, oh, Lecrae, he's part of the world now. We've lost him to the world. And he was like, you know, I can't share the love of Jesus to people who are already saved. Like, I need to share the love of Jesus to the people who are lost. And so I get where he's coming from.
Right.
But again, that goes back to who's doing the influencing. Are you being a positive influence, or is the negativity being pushed onto you? And I think, I think also of, someone who will remain unnamed, what has been listening to music that they're not supposed to. And that is not a positive flow of music coming in. It has bad language. It talks about inappropriate things, all of these things. And when you ask this person, well, why are you listening to this music? Oh, my friends, pointed out and said I should listen to it. Right there is a great example of the negativity is influencing them. And so it comes down to a really delicate balance. What did you do, because you were a quote unquote youth leader? What did you do in your high school days to try to combat, like, where you were balancing being positive but also being around a lot of negativity?
Well, it was simple. Like I said before, I always found it interesting that Jesus always hung out with sinners. Yeah. Like, he didn't come and he wasn't hanging out with, like, the Pharisees or anything. And he even says, that healthy people don't need a doctor. It's the sick ones that need the doctor. Right. And so I always tried to be that way. I did go to parties, but I didn't drink. I was the one making sure that my friends would be okay, that they would get home okay. I was known as the Jesus freak in my school growing up, and you know what? I am very proud of that. They knew that they knew that I wasn't going to be swearing. They knew that I wasn't going to be drinking, and there were times where I would show up to a party to hang out with friends, and they would ask, "Why don't you drink?" Funny you say that. And right away, like, that would open up a door for me to talk to them. And I did have I remember I had a friend who was struggling with stuff at home, and his way of dealing with it was by drinking on the weekends. And I was going through a lot my junior year in high school, and it got to the point where I was going through so much that I ended up having ulcers, and but I still didn't allow a lot of the stuff that was going on at home and in my personal life. I didn't allow it to affect my relationship with Christ. And this certain friend noticed that, and so then he asked me a question that he wanted to know, how can you be going through all of this and still hold your head high and smile and seem happy? And that was a way that I was able to tell him, you know, that I depended on Jesus Christ to make me happy, to give me what humans couldn't give me. And a lot of that was feeling secure, feeling loved, feeling joy and comfort, and to know my value came from God and not from what was going on and what people were thinking of me. And so, you guys, no joke, within 2 months he stopped drinking. He stopped doing a lot of things he would do, and other kids started noticing. And it's just a way for you to know that you're doing a good thing in their life is by seeing their life change. And I'm not saying it's easy, it's hard, but it's so worth it at the end. And as long as you keep in mind, like Andrew said, don't get influenced, don't give in. And we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Andrew's not perfect. And God knows that. Yeah. But what's so beautiful about God is the fact that His grace, He gives us so much grace, and He forgives you. Yeah. Doesn't mean you should continue to live and do things that you're not supposed to. He wants you to learn from those mistakes and change it. Yeah. So that right there, that's the key, is to learn from those mistakes and not continue to do it. Is it hard? Absolutely, it will be hard. And you have to surround yourself with friends who are going to build you up, friends who are going to support you, friends who are going to be there when you need someone, and not turn around and stab you in the back, and let everybody know what's going on. And the way you can do that is by finding friends who have the same beliefs as you do. Because otherwise, if they don't believe in Jesus, if they don't believe in God, guess what's going to happen? They're going to try to get you to believe what they believe. And I'm not saying not to be friends with unbelievers. I'm just saying make your core group. Yeah.
I think that's the important part is, having friends. You can be friends with as many people as you want to be friends with, but I think it's super important. There's a reason why Jesus chose 12 disciples, and those were his best friends. Those were the guys that he did everything with, Those are the guys he ate with, those are the guys that he, walked around miles upon miles with and pretty much did everything with. But they, as a group, as a collective group, were doing things with a large mass quantity of other people of all different walks, beliefs, and creeds. And so that's the super important thing that I think the point Jackie's trying to drive home is it's great to have friends with and be friends with as many people as you want to, but have that core of like-minded, like-hearted, same spiritual mindset core of friends that you can lean on, and that vice versa, they can also lean on you. And then those core of your core, you and your core, can then be the ones that influence the masses around you. And so I think that's what's super important.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So I would just encourage you guys to continue to really just continue to, I say this a lot, continue to just be the standard. Be the standard, be who God has called you to be. It's very easy in today's world to shy away from who God has called you to be, because society, culture, everyone around you will tell you, that you're not this and you're that. But just remember God's promises, remember who you're called to be, remember who you are in God. And just continue to be that standard. Don't shy away from it. You don't have to be up on the soapbox yelling and screaming, telling everyone they're going to hell if they don't turn. That doesn't help anybody out. And so I would just encourage you to continue to be the standard, continue to be who God called you and created you to be. And like I said, plant that seed. God will do the rest. And so with that, we're going to close out this Tuesday drop. Again, just want to encourage you guys down below, click the like button, click the subscribe button. If you have a comment that you would like to leave, a question that you would like to leave, we would love to hear from you guys. Any thoughts or insights, definitely let us know. You can also email us if you want to have something more private. You can email Jackie and I at youth@nhachurch.com. So that's youth@nhachurch.com. We'll leave a link in the description below for that as well. So just want to tell you guys we love you. We will see you, Jackie will see you next Monday. And then we will also do another Tuesday drop a week from today. So much love. God bless.
I'm about to kill it when I step out in that limelight. I've been on the low cause I had to get my mind right. You don't have to know, you could go cause I